I opened my eyes in a hospital room, confused and disoriented. My throat felt like sandpaper, and the fluorescent lights above me seemed impossibly bright. When a nurse noticed me stirring, she gasped and rushed out. Through the fog in my brain, I heard voices outside my room. One was familiar, my sister Heather. She sounded angry, insistent. "No, that is impossible. She is brain dead. The tests confirmed it." I watched through the small window in the door as her face drained of color when the doctor disagreed. What I did not yet realize was that she had completely taken over my life, but missed the most important secret of all. 6 months before the accident, I had finally achieved my dream. After years of working 60-hour weeks in real estate development, I purchased a historic 3-story Victorian home in the most sought-after neighborhood in town. At 32, I had built my own company from nothing, transforming neglected properties into beautiful spaces. This house, though, was just for me. "Elisa, this place is incredible," my fiancé Ryan said the first time I brought him to see it. Ryan was an architect with a passion for historical restoration, which was one of the things that had drawn us together 3 years earlier. The craftsmanship here is museum quality. His enthusiasm matched mine, and seeing the morning light stream through the stained glass windows as he wrapped his arms around me from behind, I felt truly happy. "We close next week," I said, turning to face him. "Once the renovations are done, we can start planning the wedding." Ryan kissed me softly. "I cannot believe I get to marry someone as amazing as you." What neither of us noticed was my sister Heather, standing in the doorway, her expression dark. Heather was 2 years younger than me, but had always acted like we were in constant competition. While I worked multiple jobs to put myself through college, Heather had expected our parents to fund her ever-changing career aspirations. She had tried and quit being a yoga instructor, life coach, fashion blogger, and most recently, a real estate agent at a competing firm. "So, this is the famous house," she said, stepping into the room. "Must be nice having so much money to throw around." Ryan, always the peacemaker, tried to include her. "Heather, come check out this original millwork. Your sister has an incredible eye for investment properties." "I am sure she does," Heather replied, running her fingers along the mahogany banister. "Some people just have all the luck." I sighed, used to her barbed comments. "It is not luck, Heather. I have worked for everything I have." "Right, because I do not work at all." Her tone was sharp enough to make Ryan glance awkwardly between us. That tension had been present our entire lives. When I was accepted to an honors program, Heather complained about teacher bias. When I landed my first major development deal, she attributed it to my connections. The truth was simpler. I put in the effort while she expected success to arrive without sacrifice. 3 months after purchasing the house, while supervising renovations, I discovered something extraordinary. A worker removing damaged floorboards in my study found a hidden trapdoor. Beneath it, a narrow staircase led to a room that did not appear on any blueprint. "Ma'am, you might want to see this," the contractor called up. I descended carefully, flashlight in hand. The space was small, perhaps 12 feet by 10 feet, but what it contained took my breath away. Floor, 2, ceiling shelves lined 3 walls, filled with leather-bound books, documents in protective sleeves, and small artifacts carefully arranged. In the center stood an antique desk with a leather portfolio on top. Inside the portfolio were handwritten letters dated from the Civil War era, along with what appeared to be original engineering drawings and a small leather diary. One document bore the signature of someone I recognized from history books. This was not just old junk. This was potentially historically significant. I immediately contacted Marcus Jenkins, a former client who worked as an antiquities expert at the City Museum. When he arrived the next day, his eyes widened as he examined the collection. "Elisa, this is extraordinary," he whispered, handling each item with gloved hands. These appear to be the personal papers of Jonathan Blackwell. He was a prominent abolitionist and inventor who disappeared mysteriously in 1872. Historians have been searching for his papers for decades. "Are they valuable?" I asked. Marcus nodded slowly. "If authenticated, this collection could be worth millions. But beyond monetary value, this is historically priceless. You have found a genuine treasure. We agreed to keep the discovery quiet until everything could be properly authenticated and cataloged. I did not even tell Ryan, wanting to surprise him once I knew exactly what I had found. The only person who knew was Marcus, who came twice a week to carefully document each item. "Your house has been hiding quite a secret," he said one evening as we finished another cataloging session. "Be careful who you tell about this. Collections like these attract all sorts of attention." I took his advice seriously, installing a sophisticated lock on the trapdoor and an alarm system throughout the house. The basement room became my secret project, something that was just mine in a life that had become increasingly public as my business grew. The night before I planned to finally reveal the basement secret to Ryan, I received a call from my mother. "Elisa, it is your sister. She has been in an accident." Her voice broke. "She has been asking for you. Can you come to Memorial Hospital right away?" I grabbed my keys without hesitation. Despite our differences, she was still my sister. I rushed out into the pouring rain, my mind racing with worry. The roads were slick, visibility poor. I took the curve on Westlake Drive too fast, distracted by another call coming in. The last thing I remembered was headlights, blindingly bright, coming straight at me. Then nothing but darkness. Waking from a coma is not like in the movies. There was no dramatic gasp, no immediate clarity. Instead, consciousness returned in confusing fragments, beeping machines, hushed voices, pain everywhere. Time had no meaning, minutes, hours, days, all blended together. When I finally opened my eyes fully and stayed awake, a nurse with kind eyes noticed immediately. "Welcome back," she said softly, checking my vital signs. "My name is Jenna. You are in Memorial Hospital. Do you know your name?" I tried to speak, but my throat felt like I had swallowed glass. Jenna offered me a small sip of water through a straw. "Lisa," I managed to croak. Jenna smiled. "That is right. Elisa Patterson. Do you know what year it is?" I told her, but her expression shifted slightly. "Elisa, that was last year. You have been unconscious for almost 12 months. You were in a car accident. 12 months. A year of my life gone." I tried to process this information as Jenna continued checking me. "I am going to call the doctor now," she said, pressing a button. "This is wonderful news. Many people did not expect you to wake up at all." That was when I heard the conversation outside my room, my sister Heather arguing with the doctor. "No, that is impossible. She is brain dead. The tests confirmed it. Miss Patterson, I assure you, your sister is awake and responding. Her brain function has improved significantly, but all the specialists said there was no hope of recovery. That is why we have been considering other options." "Other options? What did that mean?" Jenna returned, her expression carefully neutral. "Your sister will be in shortly. She has been making all your medical decisions since the accident." Over the next few days, I learned more from Jenna during her shifts. My injuries had been severe traumatic brain injury, multiple fractures, internal bleeding. For months, doctors had given my family little hope for recovery. "Your sister has power of attorney," Jenna explained, while helping me with physical therapy exercises. "She has been handling everything: your medical care, your finances, your property." "How often does she visit?" I asked, struggling to lift my arm even an inch. Jenna hesitated. "Not as often as she did initially. Maybe once every couple of weeks now." When Heather finally did visit after learning I was awake, her expression was a mask of conflicting emotions: shock, fear, and something that looked eerily like disappointment before she composed herself. "Elisa! Thank God!" she exclaimed, not quite meeting my eyes. "We have all been so worried. The doctors said you would likely never wake up." "Heather." My voice was still raspy, weak. "What happened? Was I hit by another car?" She nodded, taking a seat by my bed but keeping her distance. "Yes, on Westlake Drive. You were coming to see me at the hospital, but I was already discharged. Mom should have told you." Something felt off about her explanation, but my memories of that night were still foggy. "How is Ryan?" I asked. "Is he here today?" A flash of something panic crossed Heather's face. "He is Away on a project right now. I will tell him you are awake." Her phone chimed, and she checked it with obvious relief at the interruption. "I need to take this. Business call. I will be back tomorrow, okay? So glad you are improving." She never returned the next day, or the day after that. My recovery was agonizingly slow. Muscles wasted from a year of inactivity refused to cooperate. Speech therapy helped with my halting words. Cognitive tests showed my mind was healing, but with gaps. Through it all, Jenna became not just my nurse, but my ally. "Your sister called again," she told me one evening, 3 weeks after I had awakened. "She asked if your condition might be temporary, if you might relapse." I frowned. "She asked if I might go back into a coma?" Jenna nodded, her expression troubled. She also instructed us not to change any of the financial arrangements without consulting her first. "What financial arrangements?" Jenna bit her lip, then pulled a chair close. "Elisa, I probably should not tell you this, but something does not feel right. Your sister has been handling all your affairs, your house, your business, everything. She told everyone you would want her to step in during your illness." "Step in how?" "She moved into your house about 3 months after your accident. Said she needed to maintain the property." Jenna hesitated. "And she has been driving your car, accessing your accounts for medical expenses." My heart raced, setting off one of the monitors. Jenna quickly adjusted something to silence the alarm. "Is that legal?" "With power of attorney, yes. But usually family members maintain things until the person recovers, not well." "Not what?" I pressed. "Not move into their life," Jenna finished quietly. "Look, I should not be telling you this, but I have seen her signature on your admission forms. Then I saw it change over time to look more like yours. The implications were staggering. While I lay helpless, my sister had been systematically taking over my identity. But why? I had always known she was jealous, competitive, but this level of deception seemed beyond even her. The next day, Jenna arrived for her shift, looking disturbed. She closed my door before approaching my bed. "I think you should see this," she said, pulling a tabloid magazine from her bag. "My friend works at a salon where your sister gets her hair done. She showed me this." The magazine was open to the society pages, and there, smiling up at me, were Ryan and Heather. The caption read, "Architect Ryan Campbell and real estate agent Heather Patterson announce engagement. Wedding planned for next month at historic Langley Estate." The room seemed to spin around me. My sister and my fiancé, together, planning a wedding while I lay in a hospital bed? "When was this published?" I whispered. "Last week," Jenna replied softly. "I am so sorry, Elisa." I closed my eyes, feeling a resolve harden within me. "I need to get out of this hospital, Jenna, as soon as possible. Your doctors do not think you will be ready for at least another month." "I do not have a month," I said, forcing myself to sit up straighter despite the pain. "She is stealing my life, and I need to stop her before there is nothing left for me to return to." Physical therapy became my obsession. Every morning I pushed myself beyond what my therapist recommended, ignoring the burning pain and atrophied muscles. Afternoons were spent retraining my fine motor skills, first holding a spoon without dropping it, then progressing to writing my name. Evenings I worked on my speech, reading aloud from magazines Jenna smuggled in for me. "You are making remarkable progress," Dr. Winters said during one evaluation, 6 weeks after I had awakened. "But you are pushing too hard. Recovery is not a race." "For most people," I replied, carefully enunciating each word. "But most people do not have someone erasing them while they recover." After 8 weeks of intensive therapy, I could walk short distances with a cane. My speech had improved significantly. My doctors finally agreed I could be discharged, though they recommended a live, in-nurse or rehabilitation facility. "I have other arrangements," I told them, not mentioning that those arrangements consisted of Jenna offering me her spare bedroom and agreeing to help me outside her regular hospital shifts. I had no money, no access to my accounts, and no desire to alert Heather to my discharge. The day I left the hospital, I felt a strange mixture of fear and determination. The world outside seemed overwhelmingly bright and loud after a year in a quiet hospital room. Jenna drove me to her small apartment in a suburb 20 minutes from my home, the home Heather now occupied with Ryan. "What is your plan?" Jenna asked as she helped me settle into her guest room. "Are you going to confront them?" I shook my head. "Not yet. First, I need to understand exactly what she has done, how deep this goes." That evening, I made my first call to Taylor Adams, my former assistant who had helped me build my company from the ground up. Taylor Adams speaking came the brisk, professional voice I remembered so well. "Taylor, it is Elisa Patterson." Silence. Then, "This is not funny. Whoever you are." "Taylor, it is really me. I woke up from the coma 8 weeks ago. I have been recovering at Memorial Hospital." Another long pause. "Elisa? But your sister said everyone was told you were permanently brain damaged, that you would never." "I know what she told people," I said. "But she was wrong. Or lying. I need your help, Taylor. Can you meet me?" The next day, Taylor arrived at Jenna's apartment, her face pale with shock when she saw me. Thinner, weaker, but unmistakably alive and alert. "Oh my God," she whispered, carefully hugging me. "It is really you." Over coffee, Taylor filled in the blanks of the past year. After my accident, Heather had immediately stepped in, claiming she needed to keep things running until I recovered. At first, she consulted with my management team, following established procedures. But within months, she began making unilateral decisions. "She fired me 3 months after your accident," Taylor said. "Said the company was restructuring. Then she brought in her own people." "She cannot do that without authorization," I protested. Taylor pulled out her phone, scrolling to find something. "That is just it. She had authorization. Look." She showed me a series of documents with what appeared to be my signature authorizing Heather to act on my behalf in my business, my financial affairs, everything. But the signatures were clearly forged. Close enough to pass a casual inspection, but definitely not mine. "I knew something was wrong," Taylor continued, "so I kept copies of everything. The termination papers, the company restructuring documents, the sale agreement." "Sale agreement?" My blood ran cold. Taylor nodded grimly. "She sold your company to Westfield Developments 6 months ago for about 40% of its market value. That is impossible. The board would never approve that. The board was dissolved before the sale. She presented documents showing you had changed the corporate structure before your accident, giving yourself sole authority. No one could prove otherwise." I felt sick. The company I had built from nothing, gone. Sold off by my own sister. "What about my personal accounts? My house?" Taylor looked down. "She has been acting as your caretaker, with full access to your finances. As for the house?" She hesitated. "Tell me." "She moved in about 3 months after your accident, said she needed to maintain it. Then Ryan moved in around month 5. She told everyone you had given them your blessing before the accident, that you had said if anything happened to you, they should be together." Rage unlike anything I had ever experienced flooded through me. And people believed that? That I would want my fiancé to be with my sister if I were incapacitated? "She can be very convincing," Taylor said quietly. "And Ryan was devastated after your accident. She was there for him, helping with medical decisions, keeping him updated on your condition. I think she manipulated him when he was at his lowest. Has she accessed everything? My safe deposit box? My investment accounts? As far as I know, yes. She claimed it was all to pay for your specialized medical care." Taylor hesitated. "There is more, Elisa. Something that really disturbed me." "What?" "About 2 months ago, she started asking questions about your life insurance policies. Specifically, the provisions regarding prolonged vegetative states and quality of life decisions. The implication was clear. Heather had not just been waiting for me to die, she had been exploring ways to ensure it happened." "I need to see everything," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Every document, every transaction, every communication you have." Taylor nodded. "I brought everything I saved. And Elisa, there is something else you should know. About your parents. My parents lived in Florida, retired. After my accident, they had come immediately, staying for weeks until doctors assured them my condition was stable." "What about them?" "Heather has been telling them things. About you. About your mental state before the accident. What things? Taylor looked uncomfortable. That you had been having episodes, irrational behavior, memory problems, even hallucinations. She showed them journal entries, supposedly written by you, documenting these issues. That is absurd. I never wrote anything like that. I know, but she has been laying groundwork, Elisa, making people believe you were unstable before the accident, so if you did wake up and say things against her, no one would believe me, I finished, the full scope of her betrayal becoming clear. They would think it was part of my condition, or brain damage from the accident. Taylor reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Not everyone bought it. I never did. And I am betting others will remember the real you once they see you again. That night, after Taylor left, I spread all the documents across Jenna's dining table. Bank statements showing steadily declining balances. Property tax records listing Heather as resident owner of my home. Business sale documents with forged signatures. And most chilling of all, recent communications with my medical insurance company inquiring about coverage for end-of-life care decisions. My sister had not just stolen my identity. She had been methodically erasing me, replacing me in every aspect of my life. And from these documents, it seemed she had been planning to ensure I never woke up to reclaim it. I called Marcus Jenkins, the antiquities expert who had been helping me catalog the basement collection. His number went straight to voicemail. I left a message simply saying I needed to speak with him urgently, not wanting to say too much in case Heather had access to his messages somehow. Later that evening, Jenna returned from her shift with more disturbing news. Heather came to the hospital today, asking about your medical records. She seemed shocked when she found out you had been discharged. She wanted to know where you had gone. What did they tell her? Nothing specific, since you asked for confidentiality. But she was insistent, saying as your medical proxy and only family in the area, she had a right to know. Did she leave any contact information? A phone number or address? Jenna shook her head. She did not need to. Everyone knows she is living at your house. My house. With Ryan. Planning their wedding with my money. I need to see it, I said suddenly. I need to see them living my life. Elisa, are you sure that is a good idea? In your condition. I need to know exactly what I am up against before I confront them. Will you drive me there tomorrow? Jenna looked worried but nodded. Just to drive by, right? No confrontations yet? Just reconnaissance, I promised. I need to see it with my own eyes. The next morning, Jenna drove me to my neighborhood, parking a block away from my Victorian home. We sat in her car, watching from a distance as Ryan left the house, dressed in a suit I had bought him for his birthday, carrying the briefcase I had given him when he made partner at his architecture firm. He looked exactly the same, yet somehow like a stranger. 10 minutes later, Heather emerged. My breath caught in my throat. She had dyed her hair to match my color exactly. She wore a dress from my closet. From a distance, she could have been the me from before the accident. She even carried my favorite handbag. She is not just using my things, I whispered. She is becoming me. We watched as she got into my car and drove away. Only then did I allow the tears to fall. Take me back, I said to Jenna. I have seen enough for today, but I would be back. And next time, I would not just watch from a distance. The next 3 days were spent gathering intelligence and building strength. Taylor brought me financial records showing Heather had transferred over $800,000 from my accounts in the past year. Jenna helped me with physical exercises to improve my endurance. I contacted a lawyer recommended by Taylor, explaining my situation without revealing my location. This is one of the most egregious cases of identity theft and fraud I have ever encountered, Attorney Sarah Bennett told me after reviewing the evidence. Especially since it appears she may have been planning to terminate your life support. We have enough here to bring criminal charges. Not yet, I said. I need to see what else she has done first, and I need to get into my house. Sarah frowned. That is technically breaking and entering at this point, since she is the legal resident on paper. It is my house. I own it. And there is something there I need to check. The basement collection. My ace in the hole. If Heather had found it, she would have sold it immediately. But if it remained undiscovered, I developed a plan. First, I needed to determine their schedules. Jenna and I took turns watching the house, noting when they left and returned. Ryan typically left by 8 in the morning and returned around 6. Heather's schedule was less predictable, but she usually went out mid-morning and was gone for several hours. My opportunity came on a Thursday. Ryan left at his usual time. 30 minutes later, Heather drove away in my car. According to the pattern we had observed, she would likely be gone for at least 3 hours. "Are you sure about this?" Jenna asked as she parked a block away from the house. "What if she comes back early?" "Then I will deal with it," I said, gripping my cane tightly. "I need to do this, Jenna." We approached from the back of the property, using a path through the wooded area that bordered my backyard. I still had the spare key I had hidden in a false rock near the garden shed, a hiding place only I knew about. My hands trembled as I unlocked the back door. Stepping inside my own home felt surreal, like entering a parallel universe where everything was familiar yet wrong. Heather had redecorated. My carefully selected artwork had been replaced with generic prints. The antique furniture I had lovingly restored was gone, replaced with modern pieces that clashed with the home's Victorian character. "She has erased me here too," I murmured, moving slowly through the kitchen. Family photos had been removed or replaced with pictures of Heather and Ryan together. One particularly disturbing discovery was a photo of them at a beach resort, a vacation Ryan and I had planned to take for our honeymoon. "Alisa, we should hurry," Jenna urged, keeping watch by the window. "What exactly are we looking for?" "My computer, first. Then I need to check the basement." My home office had been completely transformed into what appeared to be a therapy space, with a yoga mat and meditation cushions. But my computer was still there, now on a small desk in the corner. I turned it on, praying she had not changed the password. She had not. Relief flooded me as the screen unlocked with my usual credentials. I quickly began searching through emails and documents, looking for evidence of further betrayal. It did not take long to find emails between Heather and my doctors discussing my prognosis, specifically asking about situations where continued life support would not be in the patient's best interest. There were also emails with a funeral home, inquiring about services and costs. "She was planning to let me die," I whispered, forwarding these emails to Taylor's address as evidence, or maybe even help it along. Next, I searched for communications about the house. There it was, an email chain with a real estate agent discussing putting my home on the market after the wedding. She was planning to sell my house and move away with Ryan, leaving no trace of their deception. "Alisa," Jenna called urgently from the doorway. "I just saw a car slow down outside. We need to go." "Not yet. I need to check the basement first." I made my way to the study where the hidden trap door was located. Heather had transformed this room too, turning my reading sanctuary into some sort of home office for herself. My heart raced as I moved the small rug covering the trapdoor location. It was still there, the outline barely visible in the hardwood. I pressed the concealed latch, and it opened with a soft click. The staircase below was dark, exactly as I had left it a year ago. "What is that?" Jenna asked, her eyes wide. "The reason I need to regain my life," I said, carefully navigating the narrow stairs with my cane. "And the one thing Heather never found." The basement room was untouched, sealed away and forgotten. The artifacts, documents, and books remained exactly as Marcus and I had left them. Relief washed over me. My secret was still safe. "Alisa, what is all this?" Jenna whispered, staring at the collection in awe. "Historical artifacts worth millions. I discovered them right before my accident. Only one other person knows they exist. I quickly took photos of everything with my phone as evidence. This is my leverage, my way back into my life." As we carefully closed the trap door and replaced the rug, I heard voices from the front of the house. My blood froze. "I told you, Mom. The doctor says there has been some brain activity, but it does not mean she is recovering," Heather's voice carried from the entryway. "They say it happens sometimes before the end." My parents. Heather had brought my parents to my house. I moved to the study doorway, Jenna close behind me. "We should go see her tomorrow," my father's voice replied. "If things are getting worse, we should be there." "Of course," Heather said smoothly. I have already been discussing funeral arrangements just in case. I know it is hard to think about, but we should be prepared. It just does not seem real, my mother's voice broke. After all this time hoping she would wake up. The doctors have been very clear, Heather continued. Her brain damage is too extensive. These occasional responses do not indicate consciousness. It is better to prepare ourselves now. I stood frozen, listening to my sister lie to my parents about my condition, planning my funeral while I stood just rooms away. The temptation to storm out and confront them all was overwhelming. But that would be acting on emotion, not strategy. Back door, I whispered to Jenna. Now. We crept through the kitchen as the voices moved into the living room. Carefully, silently, we slipped out the back door and retraced our steps through the wooded path to where we had parked. Once safely in the car, Jenna turned to me. Elisa, she is telling your parents you are dying. Why would she do that when the hospital knows you have been discharged? Because she is scrambling, I said, my mind racing. She must have checked with the hospital, found out I am awake and improving. Now she is trying to control the narrative before I can reappear. She is setting up a scenario where even if I do show up, I will seem confused, damaged, not myself. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. Contact Marcus about the collection, secure my evidence, then stop my sister before she can do any more damage. And Ryan? Your fiancé? I looked out the window, my heart aching. I do not know yet. I need to understand how much he knows, how deeply he is involved, but first I need to make sure Heather cannot hurt me anymore. As we drove away, I looked back at my home. The home I had worked so hard to buy that I had dreamed of sharing with Ryan. Now it had become the stage for my sister's elaborate deception. But she had made one critical mistake. She had never found what was hidden in the basement, and that would be her undoing. Marcus Jenkins called me back that evening, his voice filled with disbelief. Elisa? Is it really you? I was told you were permanently brain damaged. That is what my sister wants everyone to believe, I replied. But I am very much awake and recovering. Marcus, I need to know, has anyone contacted you about the basement collection? Has Heather reached out to you at all? No, not once, he confirmed. After your accident, I tried calling several times, but all my calls were directed to your sister. She said you had never mentioned me or any collection to her, and she was handling all your affairs now. When I pressed the issue, she threatened legal action if I continued to harass the family during their difficult time. I knew something was wrong, but without proof. She never found it, I said, relief evident in my voice. The collection is still there, untouched. That is remarkable news, Marcus said. But, Elisa, you should know in your absence. I continued researching Jonathan Blackwell and his work. The collection is even more significant than we initially thought. How so? I located correspondence between museum curators from the 1950s discussing rumors of Blackwell's lost papers. They mentioned specific inventions and historical documents that match exactly what you found. If those rumors were true, the collection would be valued at $8 to $10 million. The figure took my breath away. $8 million? At minimum. But beyond the monetary value, this is a historical treasure. The Smithsonian has been searching for these papers for decades. This explained why I had been so careful about the collection, keeping it secret until proper authentication was complete. That kind of value would attract attention, both legitimate and otherwise. Marcus, I need your help. Can you meet me at the external basement entrance tomorrow evening? I need to document everything officially before I confront Heather. He agreed immediately, and the next piece of my plan fell into place. The following evening, Marcus met Jenna and me behind my property, where an old coal chute had been converted to an emergency exit from the basement decades ago. Few people knew of its existence, as it was concealed by thick shrubbery and rarely used. I cannot believe you are really here, Marcus said, embracing me carefully. When they said you would never wake up. That is what Heather wanted everyone to believe, I explained, as we made our way to the hidden entrance. She has taken everything from me, Marcus. My home, my business, my fiancé. But she never found this. The external entrance was secured with an old padlock. for which I still had the key on my hospital keyring, the personal effects that had been stored after my accident and returned when I was discharged. It opened with a creak, revealing a short tunnel that connected to the main basement. We moved silently through the darkness, using only the flashlights on our phones for illumination. The main basement was cluttered with storage boxes and old furniture, just as I remembered it. But the wall that concealed the hidden room showed no signs of discovery or disturbance. "She really never found it," Marcus whispered, as I activated the hidden latch mechanism. The false wall swung inward, revealing the treasure beyond. For over 2 hours, we documented everything. Marcus had brought proper archival equipment, gloves, acid, free containers, a professional camera. We photographed each item, created a detailed inventory, and secured copies of the original authentication paperwork I had begun before my accident. "The ownership documentation is still in the desk," I said, carefully removing a folder from the antique desk drawer. I had started the process of formally registering the find. "These papers prove the collection was discovered on my property and legally belongs to me." As we worked, Marcus shared more of his research. The most valuable items are the engineering drawings. Blackwell was working on advanced mechanical systems that were decades ahead of his time. These drawings alone could be worth millions to the right museum or collector. "And Heather never suspected any of this was here?" Jenna asked, helping to catalog smaller artifacts. "I never told anyone except Marcus," I explained. "I was going to surprise Ryan the weekend after my accident. I wanted everything properly authenticated first." As we finished our documentation, Marcus pointed to a small leather notebook I had not paid much attention to before. "Have you examined this closely? It appears to be Blackwell's personal journal." I shook my head. We never got to that item in our original cataloging. Marcus carefully opened it, turning the brittle pages with gloved hands. "These are his private thoughts, engineering notes. Wait." He stopped, studying one entry more closely. "Listen to this. April 12, 1871. I fear someone has discovered my work on the steam propulsion system. The brake lines on my carriage were severed today, nearly resulting in disaster on Front Hill Road." A chill ran through me. Someone tried to sabotage him? It appears so. "And there are more entries," Marcus continued reading. "June 3, second attempt on my life today. Will relocate important papers to hidden chamber. Trust no one, not even family." The parallel to my own situation was eerie. "Someone close to him was trying to steal his work," I murmured, "just like Heather is trying to steal my life." As we prepared to leave, I noticed something odd behind the desk, a small panel that seemed slightly ajar. Was that open before? Marcus shook his head. "I do not recall seeing it during our previous sessions." Carefully, I slid the panel fully open, revealing a narrow compartment. Inside was a single folder, yellowed with age. The label read simply, "In case of my demise." With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were newspaper clippings from 1872, reporting on carriage accidents and mysterious deaths. But most importantly, there was a letter addressed to authorities detailing Blackwell's suspicions that his cousin was attempting to murder him for his patents and wealth. "This is incredible," Marcus breathed. "Historical documentation of the actual plot against him." But I was staring at something else that had fallen from the folder, a small newspaper clipping about my own accident. The headline read, "Local developer in critical condition after Westlake Drive crash." "How is this here?" I whispered, showing it to Marcus and Jenna. "This happened a year ago. That clipping cannot possibly be in a 150-year-old hidden compartment." Jenna took the clipping, examining it closely. "Someone must have put it here recently." "But who?" "Heather never found this room." Marcus looked thoughtful. "When exactly was your accident, Elisa?" "May 15th. I was driving to the hospital to see Heather after my mother called, saying she had been in an accident." "And was Heather actually at the hospital?" I frowned, trying to remember the fragmented details from that night. "I never made it there, but my mother called me." A terrible suspicion began to form. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the call history from before my accident records Heather apparently had not thought to delete. "The call came at 9:38 p.m., I said, "from my mother's number. But look at this, a missed call from Heather just 2 minutes before that. And then another call from an unknown number right as I was driving. Jenna's eyes widened. Are you suggesting that Heather engineered my accident? I finished. It sounds impossible, but look at the evidence. She called me, then possibly used some kind of spoofing app to make it appear my mother was calling with an emergency. Then called again to distract me while I was driving on a dangerous road in the rain. But why would she do that? Marcus asked. She could not have known you would end up in a coma. She did not need me in a coma. She just needed me out of the way long enough to take control of my affairs, I realized, the horrible truth dawning. A normal accident with some broken bones would have given her weeks of access. The coma was just an unexpected bonus for her. The weight of this betrayal was almost too much to bear. My own sister had not just stolen my identity after an accident, she had likely caused the accident in the first place. We need to take all of this to the police, Jenna urged. Not yet, I said, a plan forming in my mind. First, I need to secure the collection as leverage, and I need to understand exactly how much Ryan knows about all this. As we carefully locked the hidden room and made our way back through the external entrance, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Horror at the depths of my sister's betrayal, determination to reclaim my life, and an odd kinship with Jonathan Blackwell, who had faced betrayal from family a century and a half ago, just as I was facing it now. We will move everything to a secure location tomorrow night, I decided. Marcus, can you arrange appropriate transportation for artifacts of this value? He nodded. I have museum connections who can help discreetly. What are you planning to do about Heather? I am going to give her exactly what she wants, I said. A confrontation where she thinks she has all the power. But this time, I will be the one with the secret advantage. Before leaving, I placed a small wireless camera in the main basement, angled toward the hidden room entrance. If Heather somehow discovered the secret now, I would know immediately. But my instincts told me she never would. Some secrets stay hidden until you are ready to reveal them, and I was almost ready. For the next week, I prepared methodically. Attorney Sarah Bennett helped me gather affidavits from my doctors confirming my mental competence and recovery. Taylor collected evidence of financial fraud, including the forged signatures and unauthorized transfers. Marcus secured the basement collection in a private vault at the museum, accessible only with dual authentication from both of us. We have enough evidence for criminal charges, Sarah assured me. Identity theft, fraud, conversion of property, even attempted murder if we can prove she caused your accident. But criminal charges alone would not be enough. I wanted more than legal justice. I wanted my life back, and I wanted everyone to know what Heather had done. My opportunity came in the form of an invitation Taylor intercepted through a former colleague. Heather and Ryan were hosting a pre-wedding dinner at La Maison, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. The guest list included my parents, who had apparently extended their visit, as well as business associates and friends, my friends, people who had been part of my life before the accident. It is perfect, I told my small team as we finalized our plan. Everyone will be there, everyone who needs to see the truth. The night of the dinner, I dressed carefully in clothes Taylor had purchased for me, a simple but elegant blue dress that highlighted how much weight I had lost during my coma and recovery. I wanted people to see what I had endured, the physical toll of the past year. Jenna drove me to the restaurant, concern evident in her expression. Are you sure you want to do it this way? It will be so public, so confrontational. That is exactly what I need, I replied, gripping my cane tightly. Heather has been constructing this false narrative for a year. The only way to break it is with an undeniable truth, witnessed by everyone who matters. We arrived at La Maison at 8:30, half an hour after the dinner had begun. Through the restaurant windows, I could see the private room where the event was being held. Heather sat at the head of the table, wearing a dress I recognized from my own closet. Ryan was beside her, smiling at something she said. My parents were there, looking older than I remembered, the stress of the past year evident on their faces. Ready? Jenna asked as we approached the entrance. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Ready. The maitre d' tried to stop us, but I moved past him directly toward the private room. As I pushed open the door, conversation stopped mid, sentence, every head turned toward me. For a moment, there was complete, stunned silence. My mother was the first to react. "Elisa?" she gasped, rising halfway from her chair, her face draining of color. "Oh my God, Elisa!" Heather froze, her wineglass halfway to her lips, eyes wide with shock and fear. Ryan stared as if seeing a ghost, his expression unreadable. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "I apologize for crashing the party. My invitation seems to have gotten lost." "Elisa," my father whispered, already moving toward me. "They told us you were still in the hospital, that you were getting worse." I embraced him as he reached me, feeling him tremble. "I have been awake for 3 months, Dad, and out of the hospital for 6 weeks. My mother was openly sobbing now, rushing to join our embrace. Over their shoulders, I watched Heather's expression shift from shock to calculation. "Elisa," she said, rising from her seat, voice dripping with concern, "what are you doing here? You should be resting. Your doctors said any stress could cause a setback." "Did they?" I replied calmly, stepping away from my parents. "That is strange, since my doctors discharged me 6 weeks ago and have been overseeing my remarkable recovery." Murmurs spread around the table, as guests my former friends and colleagues took in the scene with growing confusion. "You do not understand," Heather continued, moving toward me with outstretched hands. "Your brain injury causes confusion. You think you are better, but the doctors told us." "Stop lying, Heather," I interrupted, my voice cutting through the room. "Every person in this room deserves to know the truth. While I lay in a coma, you systematically stole my identity. You moved into my house, accessed my accounts, sold my company, and even took my fiancé. And you have been lying to our parents about my condition, telling them I was getting worse when you knew I was recovering." Gasps and whispers rippled through the room. Ryan stood up, his face pale. "Elisa, please," Heather said, her voice taking on a pleading tone as she glanced around at the guests. "This is exactly what the doctors warned us about. The brain damage has caused paranoid delusions. You need help." "Is that why you have been asking my doctors about terminating life support?" I asked, pulling out printed copies of the emails I had found. "Is that why you were planning my funeral while telling everyone I was brain dead? Because you were concerned about my health?" My mother turned to Heather, horror dawning on her face. "What is she talking about? You told us she was receiving the best care, that there was still hope." Heather's facade began to crack. "Mom, she does not know what she is saying. Her mind is damaged. Remember the journal entries I showed you? Her erratic behavior before the accident? This is part of that." "Those journal entries were forged," I said, turning to address the entire room. "Just like the signatures on these documents." I held up the business sale papers Taylor had provided. "Heather has been forging my signature for a year, stealing my money, my property, and my life while I fought to recover." Ryan stepped forward, his expression troubled. "Elisa, is this true? Have you really been conscious and recovering for months?" "Ask Heather," I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "Ask her why she never told you I was awake. Ask her why she told my doctors I was a lost cause when they reported improvement." "She is lying," Heather insisted, but her voice had lost its conviction. "Ryan, remember everything we talked about, how unstable she was becoming before the accident. The mood swings, the paranoia." "Stop it, Heather," Ryan said quietly, his eyes never leaving my face. "I know." "You know?" she echoed. "I have known something was wrong for weeks," he admitted, turning to face her. The stories did not add up. The signatures on the documents looked different. "And when I went to the hospital last month to see Elisa, they told me she had been discharged. You said it was a clerical error." A flicker of betrayal crossed Heather's face. "You went to see her? Behind my back?" "She was my fiancée," Ryan replied simply. "Of course I went to see her, and when they told me she had been discharged, I started investigating. I found the forged emails, the altered medical reports." My heart constricted. "You knew? For how long?" "Not long enough," he said, regret evident in his eyes. 3 weeks. I have been gathering evidence, trying to find you. I contacted Attorney Bennett 2 days ago." Sarah stepped forward from where she had been waiting by the door. "That is right. Mr. Campbell has been cooperating with our investigation, providing crucial evidence of Miss Patterson's fraud." Heather's composure finally shattered. "You betrayed me?" she hissed at Ryan. "After everything I did for you? I took care of you when you were falling apart." "You manipulated me," Ryan corrected. "You used my grief and trust to take advantage of me, of Elisa, of everyone." Heather looked around wildly, seeing nothing but shocked and disgusted faces. "None of you understand. She had everything handed to her, the perfect life, the perfect career, the perfect fiancé. She did not deserve any of it." "I worked for everything I have," I said quietly. "Nothing was handed to me, and nothing gave you the right to steal it." "You think you have won?" Heather snarled, desperation in her eyes. "You have nothing left. I sold your company. I spent your money. I took your life because I deserved it more than you did." "Did you cause my accident, Heather?" I asked, the room falling deadly silent. "Did you call me that night pretending to be Mom, telling me you were in the hospital?" Her eyes widened slightly, just enough confirmation. "You did not you?" I pressed. "You needed me out of the way so you could take over my life. You just did not expect me to end up in a coma. That was just a bonus." "You cannot prove that," she whispered. "Actually, we can," Sarah interjected. "Phone records show calls from your number and from a spoofed number matching your mother's in the minutes before Miss Patterson's accident. Combined with the evidence of your subsequent actions, it builds a compelling case for attempted murder." As if on cue, 2 police officers entered the private dining room. My parents stood in shocked silence, my mother's hand over her mouth. "Heather Patterson," one officer said, "we need you to come with us for questioning regarding identity theft, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." "This is ridiculous!" she exclaimed, backing away. "I was taking care of her affairs while she was incapacitated. That is not a crime." "Planning to terminate someone's life support while they are recovering is," the officer replied calmly, "as is forging signatures on legal documents and fraudulently transferring funds." As the officers approached her, Heather turned to Ryan in one last desperate appeal. "Ryan, tell them we are in love. Tell them she is confused." Ryan shook his head sadly. "It was never real, Heather. You manipulated me when I was grieving. I am ashamed I did not see through it sooner." Something in Heather snapped. With a cry of rage, she lunged toward me, but Jenna stepped between us. The officers quickly restrained Heather as she screamed accusations and threats. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. "You think you have everything back? I destroyed your life. Your company is gone. Your money is gone. You have nothing left." I smiled for the first time that evening. "You are wrong, Heather. You missed the most important thing of all. The thing hidden in the basement that is worth more than everything else combined." Her face contorted with confusion just before the doors closed behind her. In the stunned silence that followed, my parents embraced me again, both crying openly now. Friends and colleagues gathered around, expressing shock and support. Ryan stood apart, uncertainty in his eyes. Later, as the police finished taking statements and the guests gradually departed, Ryan approached me. "Elisa, I do not know what to say. I was so lost after your accident. She was there every day, telling me you would want us to find comfort in each other. By the time I realized what was happening, she had spun such a convincing story. How could you believe I would want you to be with my sister?" I asked, the pain still fresh. "I did not, at first," he admitted. "But she showed me letters, journal entries, all forged, I know now, making it seem like you had discussed it with her. That you had told her to take care of me if anything happened. After months of grief and daily manipulation, I am not making excuses. What I did was unforgivable. I studied the man I had once planned to marry, seeing both the person I had loved and a stranger who had betrayed me. I need time, Ryan," I said finally, "to heal, to rebuild, to decide who I can trust." He nodded, eyes downcast. "I understand. For what it is worth, I have been trying to make it right since I discovered the truth. I never stopped loving you, Elisa. Not really." As he walked away, my parents came to my side, still shocked from the evening's revelations. "We had no idea," my father said, his voice breaking. She told us your condition was deteriorating, that the doctors were recommending we prepare for the worst. She showed us documents, medical reports, my mother added, all saying your brain activity was minimal, that you would likely never wake up. It is not your fault, I assured them. She fooled everyone. Even Ryan, even the doctors for a while. As the restaurant emptied, I remained seated, exhausted but triumphant. In one evening, I had reclaimed my identity, exposed my sister's betrayal, and begun the process of rebuilding my life. The road ahead would be long and difficult, recovering my finances, restoring my reputation, healing both physically and emotionally. But I had something Heather never found. A treasure hidden in the basement worth millions. And more importantly, I had the truth. After a year of darkness, I had finally stepped back into the light. The legal aftermath of Heather's deception unfolded over the next 6 months. She was charged with multiple felonies: identity theft, fraud, forgery, conversion of property, and attempted murder. The evidence against her was overwhelming, from the forged documents to the phone records showing her calls the night of my accident. The district attorney is offering a plea deal, Sarah Bennett told me as we met in her office on a crisp fall morning. 15 years with possibility of parole after 10. They want to avoid a lengthy trial that would force you to relive the trauma. I considered this carefully. Part of me wanted Heather to face a jury, to have every detail of her betrayal exposed in public record. But another part, the part focused on healing and moving forward, recognized the wisdom in avoiding years of legal proceedings. Will she have to admit what she did? Publicly? Sarah nodded. Full confession to all charges, including the deliberate causing of your accident. No chance she can spin this as a misunderstanding or claim she was trying to help you. Then I will accept the plea deal, I decided. I want this chapter closed so I can focus on rebuilding. And rebuilding was exactly what I had been doing. With Marcus's help, I had arranged for the Blackwell collection to be partially acquired by the Smithsonian for $4.5 million, with select pieces retained for a special exhibition at our city's museum. The funds allowed me to settle the debts Heather had accrued in my name and begin re-establishing my financial foundation. My company was gone, sold off at a fraction of its worth, but I had started a new venture, a specialty real estate firm focused on historical properties and their preservation. Taylor had joined me as partner, bringing her expertise and unwavering loyalty to the new business. My physical recovery continued steadily. After months of intensive therapy, I had progressed from using a cane to walking unassisted. Cognitive therapy helped restore the few gaps that remained in my memory and processing speed. My doctors marveled at my determination. You have made more progress in 6 months than many patients make in years, Dr. Winters told me during a follow-up appointment. Whatever is driving you, it is working. What was driving me was simple: the determination to reclaim everything that had been taken from me, not out of vengeance, but out of self-respect. I would not allow Heather's actions to define the rest of my life. My relationship with Ryan remained complicated. After the confrontation at the restaurant, he had moved out of my house and into a small apartment across town. He returned all of my possessions, along with a heartfelt letter of apology and explanation. We met occasionally for coffee, carefully rebuilding not the romantic relationship we once had, but something new, a friendship founded on painful honesty and cautious forgiveness. I should have known something was wrong, he told me during one such meeting. There were so many signs, but I was blind to them. Grief clouded my judgment, but that is no excuse. Why did you start investigating? I asked. What finally made you suspicious? He looked down at his coffee. She started changing, becoming more controlling, more secretive. And then one night I overheard her on the phone with someone, discussing your medical care. She said, "It does not matter what the tests show, she is never going to recover. Make sure the reports reflect that." Something in her voice. It woke me up. I nodded, understanding. She got careless, started believing her own lies. After that, I started watching more closely, checking her documents. And then when I went to the hospital and discovered you had been discharged, that was when I knew I had been living a lie. These conversations were painful but necessary. Not for reconciliation, as a couple too much had been broken for that, but for my own healing process. I needed to understand how someone I had loved could have been so thoroughly deceived, just as I needed to understand how my own sister could have betrayed me so completely. 3 months after Heather's arrest, I visited her in prison. Not for forgiveness or reconciliation, but for closure. She sat across from me in the visitation room, the orange jumpsuit, a stark contrast to the designer clothes she had worn while pretending to be me. Her hair had returned to its natural color, the facade she had created now completely stripped away. "Why did you come?" she asked, her voice hollow. "To gloat?" "No," I replied calmly. "To understand. I want to know why, Heather. Why you hated me enough to try to erase me completely." She was silent for a long moment, studying me with eyes so similar to my own. "I did not hate you," she finally said. "I envied you. Everything always came so easily to you." "Nothing came easily to me," I corrected. "I worked for everything I achieved. You saw the success but ignored the struggle." "You do not understand what it is like living in your shadow," she continued, as if I had not spoken. "Perfect Elisa, successful Elisa. Even Mom and Dad think you hung the moon. So you decided to become me, rather than building your own life?" A bitter smile crossed her face. "I tried building my own life. But no matter what I did, it was never good enough, never as good as what you had. So, you caused my accident," I said. "Called me pretending to be Mom, knowing I would rush to the hospital in the rain." She did not deny it. "I just wanted you temporarily out of the way. Some broken bones, maybe. Time to access your accounts, find out how you were really funding your perfect life." "You thought I was doing something illegal?" I asked, incredulous. "No one gets that successful that quickly without cutting corners. I was sure you had secrets. And when you ended up in a coma instead," she shrugged. "It seemed like fate. You tried to kill me, Heather. The doctors found evidence you were tampering with my medication, asking about terminating life support when they reported improvement." I panicked, she admitted, no remorse in her voice. "Once I started living your life, I could not go back, and if you woke up, you would lose everything." She met my gaze directly for the first time. "But you had a secret after all, did not you? Something valuable hidden in the basement. What was it?" I smiled slightly. "The one thing you never found. The thing that saved me." I stood to leave, having heard enough. There was no remorse in her, no recognition of the depth of her betrayal, only self, pity, and justification. "I am letting you go, Heather," I said as I prepared to signal the guard. "Not forgiving you, that may never be possible, but releasing the hold your betrayal has on my life. You will serve your time, and I will live my life. The life you tried and failed to steal." Her facade cracked slightly then, a glimpse of the pain and anger beneath. "You think you have won? You have lost a year of your life. Your company, your fiancé trusts me more than you now. Your perfect life is gone." "No," I replied calmly. "My old life is gone. But I am building a new one, stronger than before. That is the difference between us, Heather. When you lose something, you try to steal someone else's. When I lose something, I create something better." I left her there, her bitter words fading behind me as I walked into the sunshine. The rebuilding continued. I sold the Victorian house, too full of painful memories to remain my home, and purchased a smaller property overlooking the river. My new real estate venture flourished, focusing on properties with historical significance, a niche inspired by my experience with the Blackwell collection. My parents moved temporarily to a rental house nearby, taking time to repair our relationship strained by Heather's manipulations. Together, we sorted through family photos, shared stories, and gradually rebuilt the trust that had been damaged. "We should have seen through her lies," my mother said one evening, as we looked through old albums. "We should have asked more questions." "She fooled everyone," I reminded her. "Even the doctors, even Ryan." She was very convincing. "Not everyone," my father corrected. "Not your friend Taylor or your nurse Jenna. They believed in you when no one else did." He was right. Throughout my recovery and fight to reclaim my life, Certain people had stood firm: Taylor with her saved documents, Jenna with her unwavering support, Marcus with his protection of the Blackwell collection, even Ryan in his belated but crucial assistance. The experience had taught me the true value of loyalty and the importance of legal protections. I had updated my will, created an ironclad power of attorney with multiple oversight provisions, and established a living trust with clear directives for my care in case of future incapacity. 1 year after confronting Heather at the restaurant, I hosted a gathering at my new home. Not a celebration exactly, but a milestone recognition. Taylor was there with her husband, Jenna with her family, Marcus, and several colleagues from my new business. My parents occupied the place of honor near the fireplace. And Ryan came too, standing somewhat apart but present, our new friendship cautious but healing. "I want to thank all of you," I said, raising my glass in a toast. "Each of you played a part in helping me reclaim my life. A year ago, I was just beginning to understand how much had been taken from me. Today, I am standing in a new home, running a new business, surrounded by people I know I can trust." Later, as guests mingled on the patio overlooking the river, Ryan approached me. "Your speech was beautiful," he said, "but you left something out. The most important part of this story is not what others did for you, it is what you did for yourself. Your determination, your strength. That is what truly saved you." I considered his words, watching the sunset reflect on the water. Maybe, but I could not have done it alone. "No one does anything truly significant alone," he agreed. "But not everyone would have found the strength to fight back the way you did after everything you endured." We stood in comfortable silence, our shared history between us, the love, the betrayal, the painful rebuilding. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not discovered the collection in the basement?" he asked. "If you had not had that financial safety net?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But I think I would have found another way. When something is taken from you unjustly, you find strength you never knew you had." The gathering continued into the evening, warm conversation, and genuine laughter filling my new home. As guests began to depart, each embracing me with authentic affection, I felt a sense of peace I had not experienced since before the accident. My sister had taken my old life, but in rebuilding, I had created something stronger, more authentic. I had discovered who I truly was beyond material possessions or romantic relationships. I had learned who I could trust and how resilient my spirit could be. Sometimes we must lose everything to discover our true strength. And sometimes the worst betrayals can lead to our greatest periods of growth. What Heather never understood was that identities cannot truly be stolen, only temporarily borrowed. The essence of who we are lies deeper than our possessions, our relationships, or our achievements. As I stood on my patio that evening, watching the last traces of sunset disappear over the river, I felt not just like a survivor, but like someone who had been reborn through fire. Stronger, wiser, and finally, genuinely free. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone close to you? How did you find the strength to rebuild your trust and move forward? Comment below and share your story of resilience. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might need to hear that even after the worst betrayals, rebuilding is possible. Thank you for listening, and may you find strength in your own challenges, just as I found mine.